Taoiseach, just over 6 weeks ago, this government came to office amid a flurry of talk and promises of new politics. Today we see the publication of the summer economic statement. In fact, I understand in 5 minutes' time the Minister for Finance and the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform are making that announcement outside the House. It's been published without any consultation with the members of this House. Indeed, members of the House got to read in this morning's newspapers that €300 million is to be made available for additional tax cuts, and some €600 million apparently to be devoted to additional expenditure next year. A total of €900 million, therefore, is to be made available, according to the newspapers this morning, in what amounts to the determined fiscal space. A sum which the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council has already described today as contractory. So we're going to have a contraction in our economy next year, according to the projections, at least those that we read about in the papers. There is a train of thought among economists these days that we should be, because of the experiences of the last while, very risk-adverse, and that amounts apparently to prudence. Taoiseach, an aversion to risk must not put at risk the very factors that we need to invest in our economy if we continue to grow and continue to provide jobs for our people. That approach disregards the legitimate demands of the public that an improving economy will impact on their quality of living. We argued in the last election that a ratio of at least 2:1 should be allocated between investment and in tax reductions. Probably the ratio should be more than that to deliver the things we need, like smaller classes, a functioning health system, indexation of welfare payments, and so on. But there's a second aspect of today's coverage in the newspapers that also troubles me. We read today that the government intends to press ahead with the idea of a rainy day fund. So when we have an urgent need for investment in infrastructure, whether it's broadband or schools or health services or roads, apparently the government is going to effectively put money on deposit. Even if it was used to pay down debt, it would be more reasonable than simply leaving money on deposit. So I have two questions for the Taoiseach. Will you accept, Taoiseach, that investment in urgently needed infrastructure makes much more sense than simply creating this so-called rainy day fund, which in effect is leaving money unused in deposit in the central bank? And secondly, how do you propose to have cross-party buy-in to the budgetary process if fundamental questions about the fiscal space and the total sums to be deployed are made without consultation with anybody?
Thank you, Deputy Howlin. Taoiseach.
Thanks, Deputy Howlin. Well, Deputy Howlin himself was an esteemed member of a government that had to make very difficult decisions about changing the direction of the country and bringing it back from an unprecedented recession. You asked two questions. There are 5 specific commitments in the programme for government in respect of the economic opportunity that lies ahead. The first was to meet the domestic and the EU fiscal rules, and the summer statement sets out how that happens. The nominal budget will be balanced in 2018. Secondly, that there should be at least a 2:1 split between spending and tax. And the projections are that that ratio and that ration of 2:1 is maintained each year. The third commitment was that there would be a spend of at least an additional €6.75 billion in delivering additional public services by 2021. And current expenditure in 2021 is 6.75% higher than for 2016 level. The fourth commitment was an additional €4 billion in exchequer capital investment up to 2021, and that to make use that will comply with that and exceed that by making use of the favourable treatment of capital in the rules that capital will increase by just over €5 billion. And the fifth commitment, Deputy Howlin, was for the establishment of a rainy day fund. Now, the Ministers pointed out, both finance and public expenditure, that €1 billion a year will go to the fund in 2019 to 2021, with commitment to bring proposals forward to the Oireachtas for discussion in any of that. It would be a matter for the government of the day as to whether that should continue beyond 2021, how it should be used, depending on the circumstances that apply internationally or from an economic point of view. So the total amount available to government over the 5 years is estimated to be a cumulative €11.3 billion. And critically, the space for 2017 has increased to €1 billion, with €1.2 billion being available in 2018. So it means that government can bring forward some spending for 2017 for that kind of issue that you mentioned, infrastructure or other social issues, that was not available even 3 months ago. And from 2019 to 2021, this increases to the order of €3 billion per annum, and the increase arises after the balancing of the budget in 2018. So it means that the additional capital for 2017 is €250 million, for 2018 is €750 million, for 2019 is €1.18 billion, and for 2020 is €1.38 billion. 2021, €1.59 billion, which gives you a cumulative 5.14 over that period. So it means, Deputy Howlin, that many of those issues that are a priority that need to be addressed can actually be brought forward somewhat, because there is an additional €250 million available in 2017 that was not available in the figures just a few months ago. Thank you very much. Finally, obviously there's a space here, and the Minister pointed out to Cancora, how the Fiscal Advisory Council would be involved in discussions about the formulation of a rainy day fund, how it might be used, what it would be used for, and opportunities to make proposals in that regard, Deputy.
Thank you very much. Deputy Howlin.
I asked about next year's budget. We were promised in the programme for government a new budgetary architecture. How can there be consultation or anyway an agreement in relation to next year's budget if the parameters of the budget are determined without consultation with anybody? In relation to capital spend, it was always envisaged that there would be a review of capital spend next year. And I think the figures set out by the Taoiseach are very parsimonious in terms of what is the capacity of the economy now to deal with infrastructural deficits that are real and that can drive further job creation. And finally, just in relation to the rainy day fund, the difference between gross debt and net debt is about 10% of GDP. We have notionally, we have bank shares and so on that we will be able to sell. That will be a sum of money available to the state to invest if we wish. So the final question, Taoiseach. Surely it makes more sense now to set up an ambitious capital programme for the next few years to address issues like broadband, the third level deficit we have in terms of education. We need significant spend.
Thank you, Deputy
Finish
Howlin.
our road network, invest in healthcare facilities and childcare facilities. Would that not be the wise way to invest money rather than talk about some rainy day fund?
Okay, thank you very much. Taoiseach, you have 1 minute to conclude.
Obviously there are statements in the House, 4 hours allocated this Thursday for statements on the summer economic situation. The national dialogue take place next week. And obviously the committees of the House will do their business on the preparation for the budget running into October. The expenditure for 2017, a net amount of €1 billion extra, expenditure of 670 million against a taxation of 330. 0.79 in 2018 0.39 in taxation for 2018. And this complies with the projections are there for a 2:1 for a 2:1 ratio as I outlined earlier on. So it is true that when you were in government we did not have all of the capital to invest in the very necessary facilities that were there. That situation has improved somewhat, and it means that for next year in 2017 there is an extra 250 million available, which is a lot of money but small amount in terms of the overall budget. But it means that some of those projects can be brought forward. Government as Deputy Howlin is aware, focused on health here and on housing as two major priorities, and there are others, of course, in education and broadband and areas like this.
All right,
there are 4 hours on Thursday, National Economic Dialogue then next week.
Thank you very much.